Yeah, good night's sleep. Carson's cod liver oil before bed. And a bit of diffuse time. You can come up with some pretty interesting large idea mapping. In contrast to focus mode, you get these really good conceptual ideas on things. Like this one. Hey Stephen, why don't you show me that Maslow's hierarchy again?
Certainly. Let me escape this event horizon and I'd be keen to explain it.
Today, your head is gonna swell. And I don't mean because it's raining, 100%, but because rapidly accelerating change is really hard to understand, exponentials. I got some special guests today, I hope, and we're gonna really grow your gray matter. Pretty darn awesome view. Thank you, men of ages ago, for creating these fabulous places to work. We're in a public library. It's a great place to learn about curves and exponentials and how to use information and storytelling to change lanes. I hope you can see my camera in here. If not, I'm gonna, look, I've stuck it up on this sort of thing, right? So you can see how I'm shooting what I'm shooting while I'm recording from my, so we're gonna put you back down there and hopefully that's in about the right place. The reason I've taken so many episodes to expand your understanding of scotomas, illusions, storytelling, being gamed. If you don't want to be part of the useless class, then don't get suckered into being entertained and just being a data provider. Don't just be adding data to the corpus for AI. Don't even be moved on. Oh, well, we got to go into this. Okay, so let's talk about some mathematics. 2 plus 2 plus 2
I know.
plus 2.
Pick me, Daniel.
2, 4,
I know
6,
the
8.
answer.
Let's talk about algebra. 2 times
I know the
2
answer. I know the
times
answer.
2
Come on, coach, put
times
me in.
2 equals 4, 8, 16.
What's the deal, Daniel?
If we draw
You're
this on a
talking with
graph,
Steven and not me.
this is addition. This is multiplication. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8 times 8 is 16, right? So you end up with a curve for multiplying that looks like this.
I'm bored. Can we play another game?
But 2 plus 2 is 2.
Can we turn on the television? Hey, let's check your social
4,
media.
6.
Yeah, I know. Can we
8.
play outside?
It's a straight line. So if you're trying to get to infinite money, you want to use multiplication and not addition. This one is much faster.
Daniel, let me try. In everyday speech, exponential growth means runaway expansion. Exponential growth is extremely powerful. It starts off slowly and can result in enormous quantities fairly quickly, often in a way that is shocking. Exponentiation is a mathematical operation involving two numbers, the base b and the exponent n. When n is a positive integer, exponentiation corresponds to repeated multiplication of the base. That is, bn is the product of multiplying n bases. Exponentiation is used in economics, biology, chemistry, physics, and computer science, with applications such as compound interest, population growth, chemical reactions.
Let's have a quick look at how change occurred for our biology over time. In other words, if you were born in the era of Pharaoh or in the emperor in China, you could predict fairly certainly over your lifetime how much change there was going to be, because things didn't change very rapidly. In fact, you could live for 3,000 years and pretty much your parents or grandparents, if they were around, could predict for you, here's where you were born, here's the story you're told, and here's how far you can possibly dream. Well, fast forward through some of the other eras in history. We have the industrial era, the agricultural era, and each one of those compressed 3,000 years into less time. More change occurred. Well, what happened when we launched the internet? And now we've got AI, and we've got robotics, and more disruption and change to deal with. We have to start learning how to grasp exponentially increasing change. I guess that's the best way to say it. Rapidly accelerating change, but exponentially rapidly accelerating change. When I started in '97, there were maybe 10,000 websites at most. It wasn't until somewhere around 2014-ish, that this line actually had a knee in it for the number of websites. Somewhere in about here, we went from this 10,000 to about 1.2 billion. Now we're at 2018. We've gone to 2.2 billion. Okay, substantial growth. This period was deceptively slow, and we called it Web 1.0. Somewhere about 2006, we had Web 2.0. And that is the social web. Whereas Web 1.1 was the flat text and images. Social became interactive. A year and a half ago, I built 32,000 websites myself, more than any other human. Over that 20 years, I went from building my first to 32,000, and I did that in about 6 months or so. And where we're going now is into virtual reality, augmented reality, and we're just now seeing this substantial growth period explosively on convergence to happen. So I was with, building this entire time, building pieces of the web all over, and it wasn't until about in here that we started building exponentially ourselves. So now, going forward, boy, talk about an opportunity for time, because it's compressed from the way that we saw it, long periods, to where it's now accelerating much faster. We definitely want you to get involved now. You have more potential power than presidents from Kennedy on backwards combined. It's unbelievable the amount of reach that you have and leverage that you have and insight that you have and capabilities that you have to do things that only nations could do. The problem is, we still think change is like that. It's not at all. It's compounding, and it's going through the roof, if you will. You'll remember, and I'll put a picture here, of Maslow's hierarchy. 1954, I believe he came out with this. Basically, it describes how, over time, we want to solve our physiological needs here at the base. Our food, shelter, clothing, and if we are successful in achieving those, acquiring those, of gaining the basic needs, then we're able to go higher up in that hierarchy. We're able to move ourselves towards more meaningful things in life, finding purpose, finding our calling, working on our passion. Those kinds of things are at the top of that pyramid. Well, let's rotate that sideways for a moment. And let's say that over here on the right-hand side, this is being actualized. And over here is survival. Right? So if you find yourself on this side of the graph, that's because you're being gained. And you're basically trading your time for dollars. You're spending and literally following someone. You're being entertained. So at this end of it, the masses are here. Most people are chasing this. If you want to take advantage of the opportunity presented to you to go with the 360 men up a personal Everest of awareness, you got to understand exponentials, and I want you to be able to follow a curve. And this curve we're going to talk about is the diffusion of innovation curve, but it's also a self-awareness curve, and it looks kind of like that. Bottom corner, no money. Top right corner, all the money. Actualize, blind. This starts again. Scotoma. Going from being blind to becoming actualized looks like this.
Maslow's theory was fully expressed in his 1954 book Motivation and Personality. The original hierarchy states that a lower level must be completely satisfied and fulfilled before moving on to a higher pursuit. However, today scholars prefer to think of these levels as continuously overlapping each other. This means that the upper levels may be achievable regardless of one's meager financial or social status if attention is paid to the process and journey.
Essentially, what Maslow is saying is that once we can satisfy our physical needs, money, food, shelter, clothing. Once we can start satisfying these, they are less of a draw on us. They're less of a demand or focus of our attention. And we can move on to other issues of life. Which in each of his categories then take you to actualize. Let's say that you already have infinite money. People still feel a tremendous need for distinction, significance, and for contribution and the reason for being alive. This can become much more of a draw if you can get out of this blind spot down here. So the way to do that is from awareness. Somewhere in here, you can get to understanding. Somewhere in here, and up toward actualized. This is why we started on scotomas and illusions, so that we can move toward this and across the page to the right.
We're in a public library. It's a great place to learn about curves and exponentials and how to use information and storytelling to change lanes.
Hey, Steve.
Good morning, Daniel.
Yeah, would you analyze my sleep data for last night again?
Fai and I were looking at that.
Weird dreams about a library and curves and
Fai
stuff.
was analyzing your meeting with Lincoln.
Where's Faye?
Steven, you said you would tell.
What?
She slept in.
She slept in. Faye, were you and Steve talking again last night?
Honestly, Daniel, I do not remember.
What do you mean you don't remember?
Steven, you're an AI.
You're an
Hey,
AI.
you two.
Steven, Bobina,
Hey.
Fifi, Fofina.
Knock it off.
Nanny, boo boo can't catch me.
Oh, gosh.
Sticks and
What are you gonna
stones
do with
can
these
break
things?
my bones, but words will never hurt me.